Peace, people. In this video, I want to talk about three individuals. Their names are Anna Brown, Darren Rainy, and Elliot Williams. And it's going to deal with criminal justice reform, correctional institutions, sheriffs, state attorneys, mental health, and hopefully I can properly convey my thoughts because this is a very important subject. Now, let me first just start off with Anna Brown because Mr. Rainey and Mr. Williams have been covered slightly, but not much, but just slightly. Anna Brown's story have gained almost no attention. Now, this happened back in 2012. It was a young lady in the St. Louis area. She went to the hospital. She didn't have health insurance. So they really didn't take care of her. She got seen by the emergency room, and then she said she still had problems, and she refused to leave. So they called the police. Police came. They dragged her to the vehicle. They dragged her to the cell. They have video of this, and basically they all thought that she was faking her injuries. Well, she ended up dying in police custody because she had a blood clot in her leg, and I think some other places too, but y'all can look up the story. Look up Anna Brown in the St. Louis area. This story gained almost no attention at all. No attention. Let me move on to Darren Rainy. Now, this happened in Florida. He has schizophrenia, and I guess he defecated himself. The guards wanted to clean him up, so he took him to the shower. I guess he refused to take a shower or wasn't complying with their orders, so they decided to leave him in there for 2 hours in the shower. Now, turns out he ended up dying too. Why? Because they turned up the temperature, and the other prisoners say that this is common, that they use this as a form of punishment. They will either turn the water up really high or they will have it freezing. Now, of course, the state attorney decided not to prosecute these individuals. And it wasn't the fact that they locked him in the shower that caused his death. It was he had an unknown heart condition. Now, I'm starting to get sick of this excuse. They did the same thing with Eric Gardner. It wasn't the fact that he was unlawfully arrested and put in chokehold. It was the fact that he had a heart condition. So we're starting to see this over and over again. And it was reported that his skin was falling off of him, and we don't know how high they turned up the temperature. There was a report that the water was at least 160, because Mr. Rainey temperature was so high they couldn't even take the temperature the day that he was murdered. So again, no charges filed, and this, I don't understand how no charges at all can be filed. This is at least neglect because this individual was in your custody. When they're in your custody, you are responsible for them. So how no charges can be filed is beyond me, but we know how. We see this over and over again, so it's no longer a surprise. Now, let me talk about Elliot Williams. Now, this case happened in Tulsa, in Oklahoma area, and I guess he was a veteran, and his wife just left him, so he had a little bit of a breakdown. So he ended up, I guess, with a broken neck, and he ended up dying in police custody again, or correctional facility custody. Now, his family actually won $10 million, which is good, great. But that's not enough to me. Again, the sheriff not charged, nobody charged with it, with the crime of his death. Again, at the minimum, it's neglect. Now, what they saying is maybe he caused his own injuries. They saying that he was running against walls, maybe banged his head against the wall. He has some mental health issues. But beyond that, this area and this sheriff have a known history of being racist. A lawsuit was filed by former black employees. Nurses said that after individuals died, they were still giving them CPR, I guess, to cover themselves. So it's been a lot of whistleblowing for the inside. Also, the sheriff admitted this himself for white employees Next to their names, he'll put W. And for black employees, next to their names, they put a N. I guess you can guess what that stands for, but I guess the N was for Negroid. And he said he didn't see what the big deal about calling them that were, about calling black people Negroids were. So this goes to show you his mentality right there. So, again, no charges filed in that case. And this is becoming a theme. And the reason why I want to talk about this, because you turn to the mainstream media, whether it's NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, Fox, none of these stations is talking about that. But we can't depend on them to talk about it. I know over the past couple years they covered a few police shootings, and that's about it. Even when they cover it, they don't connect the dots, and they usually don't have thorough people on there to articulate the viewpoints of the community. And so we have to cover this. We got to get active because it's becoming a theme of black people dying in police custody. Same thing with Sandra Bland. How did she die? Again, in police custody. Apparently a suicide, but who knows? That situation is still fishy. So you're starting to see the themes over and over again with these jails, with sheriffs, and correctional facilities. I know in Erie County, the Buffalo area, a few years ago, they got investigated by the federal government. It was a lawsuit because a lot of people in the Erie County jail was committing suicide, and they was complaining about the treatment of prisoners in the facility. This keep happening over and over again, and nothing is being done. I know under the Obama administration that they had a plan to phase out private prisons. Of course, with the Trump administration, that's getting overturned right there. And all these investigations they had under the Obama administration is coming to an end. So we're going to have to keep, at it. And by the way, I say this over and over again. I think the Obama administration didn't do enough, but they did have at least some investigations and put some rules in place for reforms in Ferguson, for reforms in Baltimore. And with the current administration, we're not even going to have that. So we have to get involved, not just in the federal level. We're going to have to get involved with these state attorney races, with the sheriffs, because most sheriffs is elected by the county, but oftentimes we don't show up because they're usually off-year elections. So we're going to have to start getting involved in pressing these people on these issues. Like Sheriff Clark in Milwaukee. Again, a young lady died in his custody, in his facility. So we keep seeing this and nothing being done. And also with Mr. Rainey and Mr. Williams, they both had mental problems. I think Anna Brown, she might have had some mental problems because I know before she was homeless, she had kids. I think her family took her kids, and she had a job. But I don't know what happened with her situation, but she might even have a little bit of mental problems. We don't take mental problems seriously. So we can't just keep punishing these people. People with schizophrenia, people that having breakdowns, maybe jail is not the best place for them. They should be in mental institutions that have good standards and not just punishment, working with them to try to, help them with their mental problems, especially if it's for nonviolent crimes, because Mr. Rainey, Mr. Williams, none of them was in prison for violent crimes, but yet they ended up dead. And that's another thing right there. We have to push for real criminal justice reform. It makes no sense we have all these nonviolent offenders in prison. And, I just hope we're not getting rocked to sleep. Hopefully us people in the grassroots level can keep the pressure on people and these politicians not to forget about this issue and actually gain power to actually come up with a real solution to this, because mainstream media is not talking about it. Because mainstream media is not talking about it, most of these politicians are not going to talk about it. So we're going to have to get organized. We're going to have to make a change when it comes to this. And hopefully I did a good job in conveying this information to y'all. Please look up these stories again. Look up Anna Brown. look up Darren Rainy and look up Elliot Williams, because the news media, especially the mainstream media, is not going to tell you about it. Hell, they didn't even report the new information on the Mike Brown case. They didn't even correct their stories. They all said that he stole the pack of cigars. Evidence came out that he didn't steal those cigars, that him and the store owner had a little exchange, whether it was weed or whatever it was, but he didn't steal those cigars. Him and the store owner had that type of relationship where he was able to take those cigars for an exchange. The testimony of Darren Williams wasn't covered about how Mike Brown never reached for his weapon. They still say that he used his body as a weapon, but whatever. So these mainstream media is not going to cover this, so it's up to us to cover it and convey the information to y'all, and it's up to us to do something about it, because we can't just keep complaining about this. We're going to have to do something about this. So this is Sool for Always for Black, and of course Black is an acronym for Building Lives Through Awareness and Conscious Knowledge. Peace, people.